All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for bringing us together again today. Everybody's healthy and happy. Let your word not return unto thee void, but let us accomplish what you please and prosper in the thing where you sent it. Anoint the messenger today. Let this seed fall on good ground. Let my will decrease and yours increase. In your precious Son's name we pray. All right, folks. Now, the topic today is private versus public, but I'm going to go all over the place. And there's a reason for that. Because I'm trying to show time and time again that nothing is separate. Everything works in unison on the adversarial side and on God's side, Yahuwah's side. Nature, natural, objective reality. What's objective mean? Well, you can see it. It's there. It's proof. Moral objectivity. That means there's moral absolutes. Thou shalt not steal, all these things that are moral truths, where what we're going into today is the artificial, man-made, subjective reality. Yeah, whatever you think in your head, you can be as delusional as you want to be. You want to be a unicorn? Well, you can be a unicorn. Okay? That which has been shall be, and nothing new under the sun. So to make my point today, we're going to start off on the internet. There's a lot of stuff going on, folks. We had another mass shooting again yesterday. Listen, let me count the ways. I just showed y'all Thelema last week, right? 831. What's that 8 represent? That's the Ouroboros, infinity, right? 31 is what? 13 backwards, abrahadabra. What's 2019? 2 plus 1 is 3, 39. There's your 39 and your 31 for Thelema. It's chaos magic, folks. It doesn't matter if it's real or not. It's the agenda as we move forward. You will find these numbers, and it's dialed in every time. It never fails. On their dates, on their ritual dates, their numbers are going to align. Because that's the way their magic works. The magic is that you believe it's real. Without ever contemplating anything else. Look at how much, let's just do for our instance here. We had a supposed hurricane coming a month ago. Everybody went and wiped the shelves out. Was there a hurricane that come? That's how easily manipulated the masses is. They did it just again the other day. Said a Cat 5 storm was coming to hit Florida. And I'm going to show you the real pictures from satellite of what that hurricane looks like. And then we're going to look at the CGI garbage that they put on the news channels. Fear sells, and it always has. So let's go over here. Let's do this first because I'm setting the foundation. All right, so this is James Traficant, Ohio House of Representatives, in the congressional record of March 17th, 1993. All right, this is what Mr. James Traficant Jr. of Ohio had to say. All right, Mr. Speaker, we are here now in Chapter 11. Who knows what Chapter 11 is? Bankruptcy. Members of Congress are official trustees presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity in world history, the U.S. government. Okay, so folks, they're bankrupt. Who's the surety for the debt? There you go. We're the surety for the debt. That's why the debt keeps going up, and the living men and women born into this system, they get their birth certificate, they get the Social Security card, boom, they're a slave for life. They are a debt slave. That's why that's what you are. Because the United States is what? It's a corporation. It's a bankrupt corporation. We are set, hopefully, a blueprint for our future. There are some who say it's a coroner's report that will lead to our demise. It's inevitable. It is an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act, March 9th, 1933. That's when Roosevelt actually made the Emergency Banking Act. And what did he do? He confiscated the gold. How many of you know that they confiscated the gold? That's right. Confiscated the gold. All right, being bankrupt and insolvent. 73rd Congress, Session 5, 1933, joint resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause, dissolve the sovereign authority of the United States and the official capacities of all United States governmental officers, and departments, and is further evidence that the United States federal government exists today in name only. The receivers of the United States bankruptcy are the international bankers via the United Nations, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. All United States offices, officials, and departments are now operating within, keyword here, de facto status in name only, under emergency war powers. Is it any wonder that your police are armed to the teeth, military style? You know, the fear porn purveyors out there on YouTube and everything else will keep on saying martial law is coming, martial law is coming. Folks, it's been here. Used to have cops. Cops were constables on patrol. They had a baton. Okay? Now your officers are armed with what? Lethal weapon. It means you're under martial law, folks. And they keep getting more and more gear. Heck, they show you at every single one of these mass shooting events, the police out there in tanks. Hey, folks, you've been occupied. But here's the truth. Who have you been occupied by? There's a quote by one of the ex-presidents. I don't remember which traitor it was, but they always, one or two of them always says some truth. We will never be defeated from without. We would be defeated from where? Within. The traitors are amongst your midst. Now, how many men, women, and child know this? Why are they allowed to pull this off and everybody thinks that they're going to vote for president?
They put him in jail.
That's right. They sure did. Why?
Well, not certain things, but he always said that they had a vendetta against
That's
him.
right. Why did they put him in jail?
To silence him.
That's right. This was one of the few honest men that ever stepped in Congress. What happens to the dissenters? Well, we're seeing it today with the red flag gun laws. I'm going to show you another FBI document today stating, matter of factly, that anybody who believes in Zog or the United Nations or the IMF and the conspiracy theories surrounding that are what? Are criminals. But what's the real truth? Who prints the money for the United States? I mean, it's very simple, folks. It's a private international corporation. So who owns the United States? The private international corporation. We'll do it again. We'll do it again because I keep this up here. What is my birth certificate printed on? A bank bond. All right. Let's just keep moving forward. All right. So in order for you to believe the lie, the same adversary has to teach you. Okay? Let's go to this. Where is it? Right here. All right, this is the 1895 8th grade final exam. Now, most college students wouldn't pass this quiz. And most wouldn't. Give the 9 rules for the use of capital letters. There's no A, B, C, or D question, answer. They had to name all 9 rules. And it goes all through here. Use the capital letter for officials. Name the parts of speech and define those that have no modifications. Noun, verb, adjective, adverb, pronoun, preposition, conjunction, interjection, article. Define the verse, stanza, paragraph. And it goes on and on. I'm going to put these in the show notes. Let's get down here to the math. They've got to know every single... What? Now, let me ask y'all, folks. If languages is so important and you are judged by thy words, and by thy words y'all shall be condemned, what's the easiest way to manipulate the reality of the people? Manipulate the words the people have to use.
You're doing that right now.
That's right. Manipulate the words the people have to use. All right, so we'll go down here a little bit. Arithmetic, name and define the fundamental rules of arithmetic. How many of y'all can answer that? I'm going to tell you right now, let me be straightforward. I would fail this test. I'd fail it. I'd fail it. And it goes on and on. They got to do compound interest. One of the most telling things is this right here. In 1895, they had to be able to write a bank check. The most important part's right here. What's that? A promissory note. Had to be able to fill out a promissory note. Who fills out the promissory notes now? See, still at this point in time, the people were the what? The living man and woman was what? Let's look back here at our chart. Okay, we're proving points today. He was the private man. He was the creditor. He was the creditor. His word was only as good as his what? His word. He was the creditor. What happens in the public? In the public, on the de facto governmental side, the bank holds all the credit and they issue it. Even though we know for a fact they're printing just numbers on a piece of paper and it has no value whatsoever, it has no value. Only within people's minds does it have value. All right? They're the creditor. We are the what? Debtors. So there's absolutely no reason for them to show you that you can write promissory notes to what? Discharge debt and everything else, because you can't pay for a debt. We've gone through this a million times. You can never pay a debt off in this society. Why? Because you cannot use a debt instrument to pay a debt. Let me say that again. The money in your wallet is a debt instrument. As soon as it's printed off the press, it's what? Anybody? It's debt. We owe it. So it's a debt instrument. All right. I'm gonna get all this stuff off the internet done, because listen, folks, it's coalescing faster. This thread of chaos, the chaos magic and everything else is coming together quicker than I anticipated. I don't know if y'all realize it or not, but they're coming for the guns of the American public. All right, when they disarm us, and they will eventually, you better be ready to be able to survive on your own. And it's here. We're doing forced mandatory vaccinations for all children. We're doing mandatory education. We're going to do mandatory gun checks. Everything's mandatory now, folks. I don't know how else to do it to you, but now we know we're controlling the weather. This is NASA. This is them spraying in front of the hurricane as it comes. These are not natural cloud formations. Let's do this. Let's read this article right here. Where did I put it? All right, and we know this. Hey, listen, folks. This is back in 2012. They started the funding for this from the University of Washington and the Royal Society. Marine cloud brightening is a part of a broader concept known as geoengineering, which encompasses efforts to use technology to manipulate the environment. Brightening, like other geoengineering proposals, is controversial for its ethical and political ramifications and the uncertainty around its impact. But those aren't reasons to not study it. They've way past studying, folks. They did it in Vietnam. This is called geoengineering. They just showed you a movie about it last year, and it's done every day. Listen, folks, if you can't get somebody that is brain dead and blind that can't look up, just look up in your clouds in your area every day, and they're spraying you like a bug. That ought to tell you what society you live in. All you have to do is use your eyes. All right. What else did I have? Let me show you this too. Let's show you how the de facto corporation works. It protects itself at all costs. We watched Epstein disappear a week or so ago. Now this week, James Comey is cleared of all Trump memos and everything else. You're watching a show, folks. You're watching a show, okay? It's not real. The whole world's a stage. The problem is most men and women, and we talk about this in the study today, most men and women cannot stop going around on the hamster wheel to think about these things. Why? Why was life built that way? Keep you from thinking. Keep you from reaching your higher mind. All right, let's start study. Anybody got any questions about this 1895? I'm going to tell you, this is pretty important right here. This was an 8th grade student. A college degree. My daughter or me or anybody in this room couldn't pass this test. That's a shame, folks. And we're going to look at something else with the fluoride. Oh, matter of fact, I've got it right here before we start. All right. They just had a big deal come out last week, right? Big deal come out last week, right? It was last week, huh? Yeah. How about I tell you they've known that for 60 years? Would you believe me? Uh-huh. what are they doing? What's really happened, folks? Let's show you how ignorant the masses are. All right? It doesn't matter how many times I tell you that you're brushing your teeth with sodium fluoride, you're still going to brush your teeth with sodium fluoride. What's sodium fluoride? Rat poison. All right, hold on now. They just made this announcement. I just went back 7 years. Let's do this. What's the date from this article right here? This is 2012, July 25th, 2012. This is from Harvard. Let's go up here, Harvard T.C. Chan, School of Public Health. Let's read it together. The average loss in IQ was reported as a standardized weighted mean difference of 0.45, which would be approximately equivalent to 7 IQ points for commonly used IQ scores with a standard deviation of 15. Some studies suggested that even slightly increased fluoride exposure could be toxic to the brain. Thus, children in high fluoride areas had significantly lower IQ scores than those who lived in low fluoride areas. So let's say they started putting the fluoride in the water in 1940. Every generation that's drinking fluoride drops 7 points. We're 60 years later. How low is the IQ now in that generation? Let's do 7 points. Let's say average IQ was 100. Now we're down to 60. At what point do the people wake up? Well, here we go. This is 7 years ago. 7 years ago, and we come to today. They're going to run the same story again. It's the same story again. Now, how many people are going to read that and stop administering fluoride to their children? It's called revelation of the method. They've told you the truth. You didn't believe it, nor did you act on it. So who's morally responsible for the fact that you hurt someone you love? Well, in their eyes, if you're too stupid to recognize the truth, you don't deserve to live. These are evil people, folks. Evil. Discussion. First, we must review, because I do believe concepts and ideas spoken of here tend to fade over time, and we allow life, the rat race, bills, money, family issues to take precedent. This is all by design, folks. This is to keep the blinders on your eyes, straight looking forward. Never think outside the box, anything, to shepherd us away from these important truths. Ladies and gentlemen, there's enough going on currently in the world to keep the mind occupied with all sorts of fantastical ideas. But the reality is that is also by design. Let's storm Area 51. There's aliens in there. I mean, it just doesn't matter. There's gods from the Pleiades coming down. There's all kind of garbage. We have trade wars, currency manipulation, erratic stock markets, crop destruction via geoengineering, presidents calling themselves the chosen ones, anything for a soundbite to where they can get the people to tune in 24/7 to the idiot box. But today we will focus on the why. Society continues to degenerate into social, political, and moral chaos. And that's the crux of it, folks. Let's keep this thing going. I'm going to try to rush through here. I want to keep everybody engaged. I've got a lot of scriptures at the ends, folks. Multiple topics leading to one conclusion. As the manipulators of our reality continue to march forward with the agenda, we are left with these small gatherings. To cherish these moments, folks, that especially in this household, I can't tell you how many men and women message me, email me, begging and wishing they had a minute to sit down, or anybody to sit down in their area with and discuss these topics with. They're absolutely alone out there in the world. Remember these moments. Speak about education. We did that. I went and did that already. And schooling for a minute. Schools are for what? Fish get in schools, folks. It's herd mentality. That's what a school is. Standardized citizenry. Everybody's on the same footing. That's what a school is. That's what schools are. The concepts of review are within, and I encourage each and every one of you to start really grasping the difference between what you believe you are, what you have been told. You're not a monkey fish frog, I can promise you that. This is a creation. There's intelligence behind the design. It is up to you to seek out who that designer and creator was, versus who you really are, as defined by the word and creation. Unclassified law enforcement sensitive. This is to go with the what I showed you a little while ago on the United Nations and James Traficant. Okay, we know we are under what? The Unidrot. How do we know we're under Unidrot? Because Unidrot owns the copyright to what? Anybody in here know? We pay a lump sum amount each year to use what? What form of codes and statutes? Anybody? UCC, Universal Commercial Code, is owned by Unidrot. That's right. What's one of the things that Kennedy didn't want to sign? Anybody? You know John F. Kennedy, the one they blew his head off in broad daylight? What's one of the documents he wouldn't sign? The Unidrot. It's just something to go out there. Appendix B, prominent anti-government, identity-based, and fringe political conspiracy theories. And this is all a little bulletin here where they're going out. And this is going to be your thought crime laws, okay? This is an FBI document. I had to cut some of it off to fit it on here. That way you could see it. Anybody speaking of Zog, the Zionist-occupied government, Islamberg, false flags, UN, NWO, it doesn't matter. Anybody speaking of these things, they've got to be completely out of their mind and crazy. Once you can see the game and how it goes, and I'm going to tell y'all something else, and this goes for you out there. Let me tell you something. Be very wary of all extremes. And what do I mean by that? Let's do the QAnon, okay? Let's do QAnon on the right wing. We'll do Antifa on the left wing, right? These are both controlled operations. They're fringe. They're radicalized, right? So what are they going to do with using those two fringe deals? It's called the Hegelian dialectic. They're going to use those two, and everything in between it is going to be caught up in the middle of it. Be very careful of all extremes, because that's where the control is. Okay? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by Him, and without Him was not anything made that was made. In Him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. Now this is in here for a reason, folks. I'm gonna start challenging us again as we move forward. What does this mean to you?
Everything goes back to God.
That's right. That means He's life. Ecclesiastes, we talked about it last week a little bit. And the man shall return to the dust of the ground, and the life shall go back to the who? To the Father who gave it. How logical deduction can assist anyone in reading scriptures? Let me tell you something, folks. The Bible, there was a time when people, the only educated people in society were what? Bible readers. Because remember, I've showed you over and over again, they've taken people from reading this thing. It exposes contract law. It exposes the whole system of men. It exposes that you're only supposed to worship and praise the Creator instead of idols made with men's hands. Everything wrong in the world is exposed within this book. But here's one thing where they'll go twisting this all up, and you forget the concept. So if He's all life, that means He's in all. But that means, folks, you can't be Him. You're not the all. All things were made by Him. All right, we're going to watch this little 5-minute video right here.
Ah, the government. It loves you and wants to keep you safe and well. It even wants to make paying taxes, fines, and court costs easier for you. How? Well, you'll need to meet your straw man. He was born the same day you were. He looks like you, has the same name, and lives in your house, but you never knew he existed. You will have even paid his parking tickets or taxes. The worst part? He's been dead from day one. From every birth certificate, a legal personality, or legal fiction, is created with the same name to confuse little old you into thinking it's you. So, there is a human you and a paper you, or as it's commonly known, a straw man. So when it seems like government officials, court clerks, or the police are speaking English, they aren't. They're speaking legalese, designed to make you agree to verbal and written contracts without even knowing about it, all spun from Black's Law Dictionary. For example, when the police say, "Do you understand?" you'll say, "Yes." What they are really saying is, "Do you stand under our authority?" Oops-a-daisy, you just created a verbal contract with them. Oh, you clever government. Did you know that whenever you register something, you are handing over title to the person you register it with? That's right. Whenever you register something with the government, they assume it belongs to them. Registered your car? Super! Now you are the registered keeper of your vehicle, and the government can crush it when you don't pay your, straw man's taxes. Expecting a new bundle of joy? Well, then you need to register your little darling with a birth certificate. Then they can start the process all over again and create a new straw man for your little one. Isn't that great? So when Junior grows up, he'll be able to generate revenue just like you have. When you notify on your baby by signing the birth certificate...
Now, in any logically thinking society, it doesn't make any sense that my child born today owes the government $5 million. Does that make any sense to any of you? How? I'll let y'all finish this, but you get this. You get the overall gist of this deal. This is the truth. The question is when are men and women going to get that this is the truth? It doesn't matter how many times we show it in black and white. When are people going to actually care? All right, here we go. Which one do you represent? Here on the bottom left, a human being in law, a living soul created in the image of the Creator, possesses inherent, unalienable rights that can never be removed. Let's break that down. Unalien. What's a lien? What's a lien, folks? It's a fine. That's a tax. You're unable to put a lien on because you're a living man or woman. Natural beauty is the birth of creation. Artificial beauty, remember this, when you see natural, nature, you think creator. You're natural. You're not born, you're born from creation. Artificial beauty is man-made, is the death in man-made alterations. You start looking at the world through this lens. This is the natural world. This is the living world. This is man-made. This is the non-living. This is why the societies of Tubal Cain, Nimrod, and everything else, would they build? Cities. They were city dwellers. Why did they build cities? They were monuments against what? Creation. Where does all the debauchery go? Well, it used to be only in cities, but now it's everywhere. But the city. Come to the city. It never goes to sleep. Okay? Now we're going to review. Now we're just going to go through the first 3 or 4 commandments. Can y'all remember the concepts we learned before about the first 3 commandments? And eventually I'm going to go through all 10 of them. I'll show you all 10 of them will prove to you without a doubt that the commandments were written for the benefit of what? All of us. And what does the modern church do today? Throw them away. Why? All right, let's read this together. I am Yahuwah thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. And of course we could do this. You make the state your God. We've done this time and time again. You'll see people do this all the time for God and country. Well, we've already defined God. Pagan means what? A country dweller. You worship a flag, an inanimate object, which is the second commandment. And you pray to its benefactors who exercise authority and eat at the welfare tables that become traps through covenants and sworn allegiance. You said, Yahuwah told you don't contract with men. Don't do it. Don't contract with the systems of men. The real destroyers of the liberties of the people is who spreads among them bounties, donations, and benefits. Remember, the devil always comes bearing what? Gifts. These topics are all over the place. He always comes bearing a gift, the free handout. All right, so let's do the second commandment. Review, folks. We're just reviewing. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. What's a graven image? Anybody? Dead image. It has no life. It has no life. Or any likeness of anything. So what's a dead image? The persona, the straw man, the fiction. The fiction of the law. What your whole system of government runs off of is off of dead entities. All right, let's keep on doing this. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, Yahuwah, thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. So you got to keep those commandments. Got to keep them. Government buildings in Egypt, like every temple in pagan cultures, employed zoolatry. Pharaohs, like every civil ruler in pagan cultures, underwent apotheosis. That's why George Washington sits in the Capitol Rotunda, apotheosis. That's why Nimrod's phallus sits at the Washington Monument. And I don't care what Capitol building you go to, you're going to see pagan imagery. The fiat currency is always embellished by members of the representative pantheon. National icons are always glorifying corruptible men, birds, four-footed beasts, and creeping things. That's why we got eagles, flags, we got Mount Rushmore. It's always some idol of a man. It's no different that you worship things that don't speak, things that can't hear, things that can't walk, the things that can't talk. They're dead. They're the graven images. And then not only do we do that, we take and we think we're persons. Are you a person? Let me ask you, are you a person?
I am, but
You can never be a person. Why? Because a person's a thing of fiction. You assume yourself to be one. And what happens when you assume something? Well, their presumption is that you're crazy. You're what? Anybody? Non-compos mentis, of unsound mind. You're crazy. And as such, because you're crazy, then they can step in and be the what? The parents patria, the father. They replace, even patriot, all right, patriarchy. We've done this time and time again. People go, I'm a patriot, man. You don't even know what you're saying. Pater, P-A-T-R, means father. I-O-T is one of a country. So your country, your father is your country. What does Yahuwah say? Call no man father, but your Father who art in heaven. You see that? And look, dude, it's time and time again that these simple truths are laid out for you to expose your adversary, and we just don't ever get it. Let's go to the third, the third commandment. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. And we'll start right here. Nevertheless, the foundation of Yahuwah standeth sure, having this seal, the Lord knoweth them that are his, and let everyone that nameth the name of Christ depart from iniquity. Here we go. A name describes that which it represents. It is more than the sum of its letters and pronunciation. A magistrate's name symbolizes his authority, character, reputation, degree, spirit, and loyal subjects. However, for a magistrate to name a thing is to give him dominion over it. This is fundamental in matters of birth registration and Social Security enrollment. You take Yahuwah's name in vain when you call yourselves God's people, but bind yourself to other magistrates instead, like when a wife takes her husband's name but gives herself to another man. That is the taking of the Lord's name in vain. It isn't what you've been taught with these little words that have no meaning. When you give yourself over to the authority of man and the systems of men, you have said, I am not one of yours. All right. The 10-point plan of the New World Order, and why this is from Alice Bailey. We're going to do a couple of these. Take Yahuwah and prayer out of the education system. Reduce the parental authority over the children. Destroy the Christian family structure or the traditional Christian family structure. By the way, folks, this is back when it was Lucis Trust. If sex is free, then make abortion legal and make it easy. Make divorce easy and legal. Free people from the concept of marriage for life. Make homosexuality an alternative lifestyle. Debase art, make it run mad. Use the media to promote and change the mindset. Create an interfaith movement. What's that interfaith movement called today, folks? Coexist. Everything's all the same. Get governments to make all these laws. and get the church to what? Endorse these changes. Has the church endorsed it? Oh yeah, they have. Well, let's compare this, and we could have done this too. I didn't put it in here. You can go to Saul Alinsky's 10-point rules for radical, and it's going to be almost verbatim the same rules. You can do the 10 planks for the Communist Manifesto. It's almost verbatim. Now, hold on, folks. Now, let me ask you this. Hold on. Let's do this. Let's do this together because I want y'all to show you that Alice Bailey's Lucius Trust and the United Nations adopted Alice Bailey's theology. There it is. The Lucius Trust, World Goodwill at the UN, United Nations. All right? That is the theology of the United Nations. Okay? That's why they got the little prayer room with the little Kaaba stone up there, which is the Kaaba Allah. And we're not going to go into it too deep today, but it's there. The point is, though, the principalities and the powers, this is their religion. And yet most men and women cannot identify who their adversary is because we are on the hamster wheel doing what? We're just trying to survive. We just want to survive. So, look, now, our whole system is built off of what? Scarcity. Scarcity always what? Means we're going to run out. We're always going to run out. You'll hear this fear over and over and over again. Scarcity, when the people believe that it's scarce, they've been saying since what, 1968, somewhere up in there, that we're going to run out of oil. We're 50 years later, folks. You know, the oil's not going to run out. You want to know why? Because it's a reoccurring mineral in the ground. It's not going to run out, ever. Then how come you got to go to the gas pump and pay that extravagant price? It's about keeping you on the hamster wheel. That's the design. Every commandment is important. And I'll say this, honor your father and mother. You can go all the way down the list of the commandments, and you can take every single one of them, and you can show how your adversary has bypassed it. Honor the Sabbath. Keep it holy. 6 days thou shalt work, on the seventh thou shalt rest. Well, here we are, because it's the only times we can get together is on a Sunday, but the entire church world goes to church on when? The first day of the week. On the honorable day of the sun. Which is what? It's paganism. They worship the creation instead of what? The Creator. Yeah, the moon and the sun and all these stars and everything else is built off, that's part of the creation. It's part of the creation. The 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto. Abolition of property and land and the application of all rents of land to public purposes. That's why you got taxes. It's all really the public's. If a heavy progressive or graduated income tax. Now we're up to about 50% of your pay goes towards taxes. That may not be directly on your paycheck, but the federal government gets their share. Then for us, we have a high income tax in the state of Louisiana. You got Social Security tax, you got Medicaid tax, and then you go to the store and you pay a what? Another 10% tax. So by the time you're done with actually paying all your taxes, you're at 50%. That's pretty high, folks. That's a pretty high tax rate. That's called a slave. That's a slave. Confiscation, abolition of all the rights of inheritance. That's why we have inheritance taxes and everything else. Eventually, they'll take away all the wealth of everybody. Confiscation of the property of all immigrants and rebels. Centralization of credit in the hands of the state. Hold up, folks. Hold up. This is the Communist Manifesto. Why does the Communist Manifesto seem to be right in line with the manifestation of what's happening in capitalism? What's happened? Now, see, they give you the Hegelian dialectic. You only get to choose between two sides of the coin, but it's the same coin. They'll go, if you're not a capitalist, you got to be a communist. If you're not a communist, you got to be a capitalist. Well, mega capitalism is no different from communism. You got a corporatocracy or a state-run government. It doesn't matter. Look at Disney. Let's for instance, Disney just bought out Fox News. What's happening to your TV advertisement? We're down to what, 3 companies on all the world's media? Well, that's a pretty huge issue for the rest of the people that's looking for information, right? What about Google buying up all the places on the internet? Information and knowledge. Buying it up. Centralization of the means of communications and transport in the hands of the state. We'll do this right now. We know every piece of data in the United States is trapped and recorded where? Anybody? You have nothing to fear if you have nothing to hide, right? Where's that? NSA.gov. Where's that at? So that's in Utah. So there's no separation between the corporations and the state. Free education, and you can go through there. We'll talk about the Frankfurt School, but we'll talk about Vladimir Lenin. Anybody know who Lenin was? That's right. We're going to read this together. This is a direct quote from Lenin. A system of licensing and registration is the perfect device to deny gun ownership to the bourgeois. Well, we know what bourgeois is. Bourgeois is a code word for the Gentiles, the goy. Okay, that's what bourgeois means. Hey, folks, there it is. There it is. This is the quote I was looking for 2 weeks ago when we had our study, and I named it to Hitler instead of Lenin, and it was a mistake. But I was trying to go back in my head who said it in the right foundation, and it happens sometimes. But anyway, this is the quote I was looking for. It all moves to the same spot, folks. So as they're crying for red flag gun laws and more registration and more licensing, we know what licensing means. Anybody here doesn't know what do y'all know what license means? Do you? I mean, seriously, from a standpoint of the law, I'll break it down. License is the permit to break the law. Well, because persons can't drive, right? Can a person drive? Can a fiction drive? No. A fiction can't drive in real life. So because that fiction is breaking the law, you got to go ask the state for permission to break the law. They give you a license. That is a permit to carry on licentious behavior. That's where the root word comes for, licentiousness. It's crazy, huh? It's the truth. Here's your fluoride, why people can't think about this stuff. Folks, they've had somewhere around 60-something years they've been putting fluoride in our water. 60-something years that you've been drinking water with fluoride lowering your IQ, and we wonder why there's almost no way to break out of this. Everything in the body can be healed. Which way? Naturally. Here's sodium fluoride. It's an insecticide, and it's effective against cockroaches, water bugs, lice, poultry. It doesn't matter. Fluoride in your water, sodium fluoride, is a highly toxic poison. The active ingredient in rat poison, a neurotoxin. It causes permanent changes in behavior, stains, ruins, white teeth. And what does it do? It propagates a what? A docile society. People just keep taking that. Listen, folks, 300 years ago, they wanted to tax tea. What happened? A revolution. 1% tax, too much. That's it. Not going to be anybody's slave. People march to the street with their rifles. Now you can't get people to just come together and agree. Listen, I'll tell you what happens on my YouTube channel. If I say one thing that somebody doesn't agree with, what happens? Well, not YouTube. I'm talking about for the people out there in the community watching me. If I say one thing they don't like, that's it. That's it, guy. I'm unsubscribed. That's it. You're a wacko. It's just the way we're trained that everybody has to think like we do. And it's a big mistake. It's a big mistake. This is the truth, folks. Now, if your system of government truly looked out for the people, don't you think we'd still have the same 8th grade education? We'd still know the difference between private and public. Every single one of us in this room would know that we're under Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And at Chapter 11 bankruptcy, the Trading with the Enemy Act was instituted. What did the Trading with the Enemy Act do? It designated us all what? Enemies of the state. We're enemies of the state. We're at war. That's why they're granted emergency war powers. Let me ask you another question. What does the president, each sitting president, every year declare? Every year they do it. Without passing, what do they do? Well, war, not just that, but national emergency. The national emergency, what? It keeps the emergency war powers going. That's why we don't even go to Congress anymore to engage in war, the law. Nature, or rather God, has bestowed upon every one of us the right to defend his person, his liberty, and his property. Since these are the three constituent or preserving elements of life, elements each of which is rendered complete by the others, and that cannot be understood without them. For what are our faculties but the extension of our personality? And what is property but an extension of our faculties? If every man has the right of defending, even by force, his person, his liberty, and his property, a number of men have the right to combine together, to extend, to organize a common force, or to provide regularly for this defense. And that's what the militias was about. We protected our life, liberty, and what? Property. Why is property so important in the land of happiness? Why is property so important? And why has all of a sudden, go back 6 years, Mama, you gave all your land away. That's how little land was worth at the point of time you gave it away. All right? My family had plenty of land everywhere. I've got nothing left because at that point in time, we never thought we'd foresee an age where an acre of land would be $50,000. You never thought it. So it's the abolition of what? Private property. Who's caused that rocketing inflation of the markets for the price of land to be so expensive? Your centralized banks. Well, they know this. A man is domus et tusium refuge. A man's home is his what?
Castle.
It's his castle. This destruction of the family union. And see, folks, I'm hoping y'all getting what I'm laying down right here. It would seem to the casual observer that nothing is connected. It would seem to the passerby that none of this makes any sense. It's just random acts. It's just random happenings on. But I assure you it is not. It is a plan carried out over long pieces of time and to where we are at this point that we are at now, where men and women who do not have the capacity to come to sensible conclusions because they have not a lack of information, what do they have?
Too much.
Can't think clearly. Too much information. That's why you have a 24-hour, 7 days a week news cycle. It's not that you don't have enough, it's that you got too much. You can't separate fact from fiction. Well, it's not just fluoride neither. We got aluminum, we got lithium, you got barium falling out the sky, you got chlorine in your water, you got fluoride in your water, you got lead in your water. You take sodium nitrates, pump it into your meat. I dare any of you to go look up what sodium nitrate does to you. And you have to actually, what you have to do is decide how much of the poison you're going to take in weekly. Because that's a choice you have to make because it's everywhere now. What are you going to eat? Well, the most important thing is you see my little water filter system in there that I pay $20 a filter for, a 7-stage filtration system. I say, okay, well, I know I can't eat perfectly healthy. I'm gonna drink my water good. It's just certain things, man, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many times I go over in this study about this information. Men and women out there and men and women in here are going to forget this information by tomorrow. And that's the point of the study today. That's a programmed response. It's programming for you to forget it. The destruction of the family unit and private property and moral law is an invasion and subversion of the rights of the individual. That's on the private side over here. For the collective rights, that's the e pluribus unum. Out of many, one. That's why it's on your money too. You'll hear them say about it. It's for the public. It's for the common good. It's for the public good. They say it all the time. You just don't realize the language that they're using. They're telling you what they're doing. You don't hear it because you don't have the education nor the knowledge that they're speaking 3 or 4 different languages. You always think they're speaking English to you. They're not. Okay, man shall not live by bread alone. And one of the greatest things about the Bible that is missed out on a lot of people, religion is bound off of what? Men take the words of the Bible, they pervert it to their desires to what? To what? To serve mammon. Cannot serve 2 masters. You cannot serve what? God and mammon. I don't care what you do. And God and mammon is what? You'll walk in the 99.9% of your churches across America, they're going to be in there talking about Trump or politics or football games, whatever, except for the words in here. He's going to read one scripture and go on for 45 minutes about his theology on that scripture, never tying in everything that this book exposes. And one of the things you'll hear people say all the time about why they don't read the Bible, what do they say?
It's hard to understand.
Boom! Why? Why is it hard to understand? They don't have reading comprehension. They don't have an education to read it. Point made. Matthew 4:4. But he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of Yahuwah. And we know it is only after much study and actual thinking about the concepts laid out within the pages of this book can one actually come to a recognition of the truth. Now, somebody asked me a question last week via, I want to say Twitter. He asked me, how did I keep coming up with this? Well, I'll tell you one of my, and I give this advice to anybody out there, almost every night I go to sleep with scriptures playing in the background. I turn the backlight all the way off the TV. I put my scriptures on, and sometimes I lay awake for 2 hours. Sometimes I'm only awake 30 minutes. But as those scriptures are playing, I am thinking about the concepts as they play out. It'll really help you move forward if you start doing things of that nature. Actually thinking about what's being said. This truth, no matter how many times shown the most, will never stick within their minds because that would require them to change. But also this is a result of the continual onslaught. And I'm going to tell you this right now, folks. I have a lot of compassion on those in the study and those out there in the world because I understand the onslaught. We are under fire from all angles. It's an alchemical transmutation of the minds of humanity. And we've gone through what the alchemical process is. It's the joining of what? Opposites. And we are going into that artificial, subjective, man-made reality quickly. Onslaught of outside forces that cause men and women to enjoy the pleasures of living the lie. All right, so let's break this down, and this is give y'all some things to go think about on this private versus public. I just ripped this from SEDM, but we're going to go into a little more detail next week, I hope. If this week allows me the time to study like I hope, and put together everything I want on the public versus private, we'll do it next week. What happens when there's no separation? When there's no separation between public and private? And remember, folks, the only law that matters is what? Contract law. That's what we operate under. Codes and statutes. It's not law. That's the first thing you've got to get out of your head. Law is unchangeable. It can never be changed. It can never be changed because it's what? Law. All right, all citizens and residents become government, public officers, or employees 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Where are you domiciled? Where's your domicile, people? Where's your domicile?
Where you live.
No. What are you? What's all of us in here currently? We're a United States resident. What's our domicile?
State.
Nope. Wrong again. Come on, Troy. You got to know this. Where's our domicile? Washington, D.C. Good job, buddy. Washington, D.C. District of Columbia. That's your domicile. Because that's where you're registered out of as a United States citizen. Where are you supposed to be if it run correctly? You're supposed to be a citizen of the state. That operates on the private side. The public side, which is the de facto corporation operating out of the District of Columbia, they even told you right there what part of the system the District of Columbia was. It's the whore that rides the what? The beast. District of Columbia. It's just Inanna, Ishtar. The statutory civil code is your employment agreement. That's just like your social security number is like your chattel code. There's your 9-digit numbers you've been counted and found wanting. The benefits of your civil status of citizen and resident is the equivalent of your employment compensation. Everything you think you own is government property, loaned to you with conditions. You have qualified rather than absolute ownership. Of course, we know this in this study. That's the difference between certificate of title, color of title, and what? Allodial title. Allodial title means it can't be taxed. It's yours. You just got a copy of a piece of paper. That's called a color of title. And I would tell everybody to go read their titles if they have them and verify what I'm telling you is true. You just got a copy. And if you got a copy, the original owner holds what? He owns the true document. All my I don't have them up. I put them up. All my trust documents, I don't send anybody the original. Why? I keep the original because it's mine. It's my trust. All right, everything is a privilege. You need legislative permission from government to do anything and everything. That's why we keep licensing everything and everybody think it's normal. You think it's normal to have a license to go out there and fish in that river? Is that normal to you? I need a license to go fish in the river. I'll be doggone. You don't have the ability to even quit your job as a public officer. That's because you were tricked into the contract and you don't know your way out. You will be so dumbed down in the public school that you won't even realize the above. The most pernicious form of tyranny is that which is justified with the defense that is good for you or benefits you. That's Bob Schultz, We the People. And of course we know the Dresden-James quote, the ideal tyranny is that which is ignorantly self-administered by its victims. The most perfect slaves are therefore those which blissfully and unawarely enslave themselves because of their own legal ignorance. Folks, I don't know how long I've gone, but I still got 8 slides. How long have I gone? An hour? I'm sorry, folks. I'll get through. These are all scriptures here. These are scriptures to make my point. John 6, Yahushua therefore answered and said unto them, Murmur not among yourselves. No man can come to me except the Father which has sent me draw him, and I will raise him up in the last day. It is written in the prophets, and they shall be all taught of Yahuwah. Every man therefore that hath heard and hath learned of the Father cometh unto me. Not that any man hath seen the Father, save he which is of God, he hath seen the Father. Verily, verily, I say unto you, He that believeth on me hath everlasting life. I am that bread of life. Your fathers did eat manna in the wilderness and are dead. This is the bread which come down from heaven. What is the bread? The Word. It's the manna. It's the words. It's the concepts. It's the ideas. The logos. It's understanding what you're reading, that a man may eat thereof and not die. I am the living bread which come down from heaven. If any man eat of this bread, he shall live forever. Not the artificial, man-made, subjective reality. The what? The living. He's not the God of the what? Dead. He's the God of the what? Living. He shall live forever. And the bread that I will give is my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world. Systems of men to control men. John 5:41. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Yahuwah in you. I am come in my Father's name, and you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one from another, and seek not the honor that cometh from Yahuwah only? And these are easy concepts here, folks. We're going to start. These are easy concepts. What has happened is religion has put the blinders on most of the men and women sitting in the pews, and they only disseminate a little bit of truth, just enough to hook them right in the mouth so they come back, fill their coffers up, but never spiritually attain that freedom. When you rip through that veil and you know who you are and who you worship, no man can hold you down anymore. They just can't. 2 Peter, but these, as natural brute beasts, made to be taken and destroyed. What's a natural brute beast, man? Speak evil of the things that they understand not. That's you'll do this all the time when you deal with people, men and women who don't understand what you're talking about. They'll get mad and angry. That how dare you infiltrate my world and my reality and speak to me like that and try to break through my cognitive dissonance. They get mad at you. What you mean? Voting doesn't matter. Blah, blah, blah. Well, it doesn't matter. You can't get through to them. They'll get mad at you. And shall utterly perish in their own corruption. You can't reach these people. And shall receive the reward of unrighteousness, as they that count it pleasure to riot in the daytime. That word riot has a lot of connotations. We'll leave it out of here. Spots they are, and blemishes, sporting themselves with their own deceivings, while they feast on you. Irrational animals. This is my notes on this particular scripture. Irrational animals speak evil of things they understand not, and instead had pleasure in corruption, self-gratification, desires of the self, instead of, that's adversarial to, that's in counter-distinction to what Yahusha told you. Yahusha said, pick up your cross and follow me. Well, we know what the cross was. The cross is what? The stauros. The stauros is actually a concept of what? Self-denial. All right, so on one side of the spectrum, you have many-me narcissistic Satanism. That's what Satanism is. On the other side of the aisle, you had self-denial. All right, cross-bearing and loving thy neighbor as thyself. Why do the heathen rage? Godless heathen. A poll. This is a deal breaker, right? Because they tell you the truth at the beginning of the Bill of Rights. They say, we hold these truths self-evident that all men are created equal and by God, and we hold these truths, they're unalienable rights, right? Then the very next part, they go what? They tell you the lie, the hook. We form these governments by the consent of the governed. Well, hold on, buddy. Hold on. How do they get that consent? Well, one of the many ways is by what? Why do you think they rock the vote? That's right. Is there any local or state-run municipality, because municipalities are corporations that are not under the arm of the federal government, thus controlled by the federal government? Does any parish in Louisiana, let's just do Louisiana, not accept federal funds to run the school board, do public highways or anything like that? No. That means they're what? They're subject to. When it's supposed to be which way? See, how many know how the Constitution's supposed to really work? They wipe their butt with it every day. But let's just say it's supposed to be separation from what? Powers. The states are supposed to be separate. They're supposed to be their own republics, but we're in banana republics. So a poll is a head, an individual person, a register of persons. In the law of elections, a list or register of heads or individuals who may vote in an election. The aggregate, that means the sum, of those who actually cast their votes at the election, always excluding those who stay away. De Soto Parish Williams. Quid tacit consentor videtur is a Latin phrase the law translates into silence equals consent. He who doesn't dissent is found to assent. Consent, the Latin maxim voting, is the act of submitting and is nothing but a poll. It's a poll. It's a poll taken to see how many have consented to what? Be governed. All right, now with that, let's go to our next slide. If you require a king, you shall have one, appointed as your adversary, because all mortal politics and religion are rejected by our Creator as contrary to His law and commandments. Jeremiah 11:10, they are turned back to the iniquities of their forefathers, which refused to hear my words, and they went after other gods to serve them. Now see, everybody wants to take other gods and idols and everything else. There's only one. There's only one Creator. All life emanates from Him. And if you do this thought process, if you got life, that means it come from somewhere. That means nothing but life can be in Him. He has no death. You can't subtract away from it, but He is in all, but you can't be the all. There's a lot of thoughts that go there. But anyway, who refused to hear my words, and they went after other gods to serve them. The house of Israel and the house of Judah have broken my covenant, which I made with their fathers. Therefore thus saith Yahuwah, behold, I will bring evil upon them, which they shall not be able to escape. And though they shall cry unto me, I will not hearken unto them. Why? Because they serve the other gods. 1 Samuel 10:18, and said unto the children of Israel, thus saith Yahuwah, God of Israel, I brought up Israel out of Egypt and delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of the hand of all kingdoms. Right? That's one of the perfect things that happened when Israel was first brought out of Egypt. It was the first known republic, true republic of men that lived only bound by what? God's law. What happened? They wanted a king. They had to have a king, and they got the kings. All right. And out of the hand of all kingdoms and of them that oppressed you. And you have this day rejected your God, Yahuwah, who Himself saved you out of all your adversities and your tribulations. You have said unto Him, nay, but set a king over us. We want a king. Now therefore present yourselves before Yahuwah by your tribes and by your thousands. You want one? You're going to get one. Now for me and my house, we serve who? Yahuwah. Remember, I keep telling you this, folks. If you get these concepts, you understand these concepts, and as you obtain this knowledge, what really happens, except for those perverted in their mind, as they obtain knowledge, they become more likely to con everybody else. But for me, as I attain more and more knowledge, I become less and less arrogant and more humble, because I know I can't know everything. It's impossible. The concepts, Malachi 3:6, for I am Yahuwah, I change not. Therefore you sons of Jacob are not consumed. James 1:17, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and cometh down from the Father of lights. He is the light that lights the life of men, in whom is no variableness. Now let me lay this concept down, folks. Neither shadow of turning, no variable. I am the same when? Yesterday, today, forever. So who keeps changing what really happened? Men. Because we want to do what we want to do. Only man's perception changes, not the Father. Of His own will He begat us with the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of His creatures. It is always pride, ego, and want to do our own will that gets in the way of truth. Most will continue to say in their heart, no calamity shall befall me, while not following our only protection, and while the world governments of men continue to rule the method. I'm going to start getting through here fast. I'm losing people. O fool, Psalm 91:9, because thou hast made Yahuwah, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. Psalm 121:7, Yahuwah shall preserve thee from evil, he shall preserve thy soul. Now, I want to expound on that. You notice he didn't say he shall preserve thy flesh. Why didn't he say he shall preserve thy flesh? But he said you what? Hey, so all this prosperity preaching and everything else that goes on out there, no, your comfort is knowing who you are and who you serve. And don't think everything in this life is going to be easy. It's not. It's a test. But this is the truth. The spirit and the soul is what we're after. That's why we don't put worldly things in front of the spirit and the soul. Isaiah 47:10, for thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it hath perverted thee. And thou hast said in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. That's the mini-me narcissistic Satanist. The atheists in our society and everything else, it's rampant in all our families. We can see it every day, visually understand it, that most people are only concerned about themselves and what makes them feel good. Therefore shall evil come upon thee that thou shalt not know from whence it riseth, and mischief shall fall upon thee. Thou shalt not be able to put it off, and desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. Right arm, works arm, faith without works is dead. Behold, Yahuwah's hand is not shortened, and that it cannot save, neither his ear heavy that it cannot hear. But your inequities, what's inequities, folks? Lawlessness. All right, we have been given a false dichotomy in this age and time that we are under grace and not bound by law, and it's a lie, because law and grace are together. We always had grace because we're imperfect. If there was never any grace, nobody ever went to heaven. Nobody returned back to the Father. So if you say that you're living by grace and grace only, what you're saying is you're lawless. Well, if you're lawless, you're what? Separated. You're separated from God. You're separated from Yahuwah. And your sins have hid his face from you, that he will not hear. For your hands are defiled with blood, and your fingers with lawlessness. Your lips have spoken lies. Your tongue hath muttered perverseness. None calleth for justice, nor any pleadeth for truth. They trust in vanity. Vanity, all is vanity. And speak lies. They conceive mischief and bring forth lawlessness. They hack the cockatrice eggs and weave the spider's web. He that eateth of the eggs dieth, and that which is crushed breaketh out into a viper. Their webs shall not become garments, neither shall they cover themselves with their works. Their works are works of iniquity, and the act of violence is in their hand. That's why there's always a war going on, folks. The war on drugs, the war on terror, the war on education, war on everything. We're always at war. The Ouroboros, the cycle. What has been shall be again, because all is vanity, folks. Jeremiah 23:18. For who hath stood in the counsel of Yahuwah, and hath perceived and heard his word? Who hath marked his word and heard it? Behold, a whirlwind of Yahuwah is gone forth in fury, even a grievous whirlwind. It shall fall grievously upon the head of the wicked. Now, I'll give y'all something. The reason why I say it happens again and again, if you go read the book of Jeremiah, and you get the arrogance, the pridefulness of that people of Israel, and you compare it to today, you can't tell me it's not happening again. Go read the book of Jeremiah and the defiance of the people of Israel as they're going into captivity, and tell me that isn't what you see today. It happens again and again. The anger of Yahuwah shall not return until he hath executed, until he hath performed the thoughts of his heart. In the latter days you shall consider it perfectly. I have not sent these prophets, yet they ran. Hey man, you turn on YouTube right now and go look up prophecies and everything else, and etymology and hermeneutics, and man, you'll get a million different designs. There's very few out there talking about contract law and what the Bible really is, exposing the systems of men, the idols of men. There's very few. I have not spoken to them, yet they prophesied. And I'm telling you, I promise you folks, if you start reading your Bible like you're supposed to, it will expose every single dark saying and dark utterance against the people of Yahuwah. It's all there, which makes it sad, because we've had the truth the whole long. But if they had stood in my counsel and caused my people to hear my words, then they should have turned them from their evil way and from their evil of their doings. Am I a God at hand, saith Yahuwah, and not a God afar off? It means he's always next to you if you just open your ears and talk to him. Can any hide himself in secret places that I shall not see him, saith Yahuwah? Do not I feel the heaven and the earth? As above. The true meaning of as above and so below, instead of as here on earth and below it, to the underworld, to Hades. The real meaning, as above to our Father, so shall it be on earth, as in earth as it is in heaven. He is all life. That's it. I've heard what the prophet said, that prophesy lies in my name, saying, I have dreamed, I have dreamed. You'll have this all the time. I had a crazy dream. Well, I have crazy dreams too, folks. That don't mean that it's some type of special prophecy. I have some crazy dreams because I think some crazy things at night when I'm laying in bed. You know. I'm going to end it here today. I thank thee, O Father, and let me clarify that statement. That doesn't mean people don't have visions, by the way. But the ones who always giving dates and times and everything else, and talking about the Antichrist is coming. Hey, there's many Antichrists already working in this world. Matter of fact, Antichrist is anti-Yahushua HaMashiach. I think we got plenty. I don't know about y'all. We're full. The cup of abomination is filling up. I thank thee, O Father, Lord of heaven and earth. That's why I put that in there. The real as above, so below. Remember, folks, they take all the... okay, let me do this. Is the sigil of the Star of Remphan a bad symbol? No, it's sacred geometry. It's who uses it today that makes it a bad symbol. It's the connotations and the intent behind it. It's just like the gematria. The numbers will always be there in these events. It's there. If everybody knew that information, would it still hold the mystique to it? No. It's two different sets of education classes. What is it that makes a man wise? The more knowledge I obtain, the less arrogant I become, knowing full well that my thoughts are not his thoughts, and my ways will always be less than his ways. I come up short so much it aggravates me. Being able to repeat useless knowledge taught via the indoctrination camps is completely fruitless. Ask any child what they have learned, and most cannot tell you. What did you learn in high school? Huh? I didn't learn nothing in high school. That's a pretty important key about the level of ignorance our society's at. You can have people go to college for 8-9 years and still not have a basis of a foundation of knowledge. You're going in and memorizing stuff and regurgitating it. It's not knowledge. Knowledge, real knowledge, is being able to apply it. This is a total destruction of knowledge, and thus a continual dumbing down of society. I hope to have a live stream this week sometime, as long as time allows, of course. I'll take a little bit of time to discuss another false flag shooting and a couple headlines. I've already showed y'all the headlines, but this is how we're going to do it. We're going to count the ways, right? Yesterday was 8/31/2019. Saturn, or the Ouroboros infinity, is represented by the 8. Okay, we just did this 2 weeks ago again. You had the same numbers. It's the same numbers over and over and over and over again. Now, folks, I don't know about y'all. I don't believe in coincidence. There's no such thing. There's God ascensus and there's adversary ascendant. 31 equals 13 backwards, right? That's the mirror. Y'all remember what that is? That's the abrahadabra. Okay? 2019. 2 plus 1 is what? 3. So you got your 39 again, which is the reverse of what? 93. So again, on this another shooting, you just so happen to have Thelema again. 31 and 93. Here's the funny part. If you add all the numbers together and fully reduce it, you get what? 8 plus 3 is what? Plus 1 is what? 1 plus 2 is what? Okay. 2 plus 1 is what? 3 plus 9 is what? 1 plus 2 is what? So you got 33. It doesn't matter. You always, it's no accident. It happens, folks. It is always there. I love you all. We're gonna end it here. Let's bow our heads. Father, thank you for anointing me with this message. May you continue to give me the knowledge I need to spread and disseminate the truth. Let your word not return unto the void, but let it accomplish that which you please and prosper in the thing where you sent it. In your precious Son's name we pray. I'm sorry, guys. That was a little long, but it does make up for last week. I got a lot of stuff I got to get in here.